looking up at the night sky. I like how you can see stars out here in the country. This isn't the country, I say, turning toward her. We're close to two cities, and she smiles up at me, and all of a sudden we're in dangerous territory. I'm above her, looking down at the fall of her silvery hair on the grass, at the way her neck moves when she swallows nervously, at the way her fingers curl in the dirt. I try to say something, but I can't remember what we were talking about. All my thoughts melt away as her lips part and her bare hand slides through my hair, pulling me down to her. She makes a soft sound as my mouth presses against hers, hungry, desperate. Only a monster would do this, but I already know I'm a monster. I roll toward her, not breaking the kiss, crushing her body against mine. My eyes close so I don't have to see what I'm doing, but my hands find her easily enough. Her fingers are still knotted in my hair, gripping it hard, like she's afraid I'm going to pull away. Please, I say breathlessly, but then we're kissing again and it's hard to concentrate on anything, but the feel of her body arching under mine and I never get the rest of the words out. Please stop me. I drag my mouth away from hers, moving to kiss the hollow of her throat, my teeth gliding over her skin, my tongue tasting sweat and dirt. Castle, she whispers. She said my name 100 times before, 1,000 times, but never like this. I pull back abruptly, never like this. She rises with me, but now at least we're both sitting up. That helps. She's breathing hard, her eyes black with pupil. I start. It's not real. The words make no sense. I shake my head to clear it. She looks at me with an expression I cannot name. Her lips are slightly apart and swollen. We have to go back, I say finally. Okay. I can barely hear the word. Her voice is all breath. I nod, pushing myself to my feet. I reach out my hand, and she lets me pull her up. For a moment, her hand is in mine, warm and bare. At the window to my room, I catch my reflection in the glass. Shaggy black hair, sneer. I look like a hungry ghost, glowering in at a world I am no longer fit to be part of. All right. Cons aren't glamorous. They're hauling out the ancient vacuum from the closet, changing the bag, and making sure you get up most of the dust. They're sweeping in the basement to hide that you were recently rolling around after a transformation. They're field stripping the gun, according to instructions on the internet, and carefully buffing off any fingerprints with a lightly oiled cloth, then wrapping the whole thing in paper towels. They're driving a mile to an abandoned stretch of road and soaking a murderess's coat and gloves with enough lighter fluid that they burn to ash. They're waiting to make sure they burn to ash and then scattering that ash. They're smashing any remaining buttons from the coat with a hammer, then tossing them along with the vacuum bag and any hooks or metal parts in different dumpsters far from where you burned the clothes. Cons are all in the details. And that was fun.
How did you, who'd you base Magnus off of? And, yeah.
This is a great story.
Most of my characters are based on, bits and pieces from friends, from people I know, historical figures, literary figures, whatever, sort of mashed up into a new thing. But I think the idea for Magnus first came to me. Holly likes the story. I was out clubbing with a friend of mine in New York, and we were up at the club that actually became the Pandemonium Club later, so it was called the Bank back then. And after we were done, we were thirsty and tired, so we went to Sbarro because it was always open to get something to drink. And my friend John had coated himself completely in glitter before we had gone out. Like, I don't know how he managed to do this. I don't know if he rolled in glue and then rolled in glitter. I never asked, but he showed up encrusted in glitter. And I was like, so we went out, to Sbarro. We're going to try her a little bit drunk, and the lady behind the counter, we asked her for 2 Cokes or whatever, and she turns around, and she drops the Coke she's holding, and her English was probably not the greatest, so she looked at John like this, and she said, "Never in my life have I seen such a shining man." And I was like, oh, you should be a character in one of my books. And so over time, John, who is like Magnus, glittery, sparkly, and kind of crazy, but also like Magnus, extremely sensible and down to earth, actually, and probably the most sensible voice in every discussion, sort of became the model off which Magnus was based.
Sorry, right there.
Yep.
This can be for Cassie and or Holly. Lauren said that she didn't have the end in mind when she started the review.
Thank you. I will answer this as I slowly walk. So my first book, Tide, took me 5 years to write, probably 5 years of conservative estimate, and that's because I did not have the end. I just decided, I actually also started with a weird image. I was like, oh, there's a person, a girl, she has iron cuffs on her wrists and they're burning her wrists. I wonder why. Maybe she's a fairy. I think I'm writing a book. I don't know how to write a book. 5 years pass. Look, I have a book. And I said to myself, self, never again will you write a book without knowing the ending. Because, you know, I figured worst case scenario, at least if I have the end, it can end like that. It often doesn't end like that, but at least now I have an end in mind.
Yeah, I know the ending, and I do very careful outlining. I think that it really is up to the individual writer what works for you. I know great writers who just, you know, shoot from the hip, like Lauren, and I know people who do incredibly detailed outlines, and I'm more towards the very detailed outline section of things, because then when I get stuck, I have like an outline I can refer to and be like, well, I don't know what happens here. Aha, this is what's supposed to happen here. So very helpful for me, although admittedly the outline for Neural Instruments at the very end had a note that said, evil is defeated. So I often know the what, but not the how.
This question is for Cassie and Holly. I know you two like to give each other's characters little cameos in your book. Is there any plans for that to happen in the future? Because I have the idea that if Alec and Magnus ran into Corny and Louis, what would come from that?
My God, those would be terrifying. Especially because the idea that the Tide series and the Neural Instruments series overlap is only problematic in one particular way, which means every fairy in the Tide series has been lying extensively to the humans. They have no idea that they're like, accords? What accords? We can do whatever we like. So I really like the idea of that, but very traumatic when they find out that they've been hiding all of this. But I think we started, we both actually grew up reading a lot of the same books, a lot of the books that were edited by Tara Windling in the like Portertown series, and Jane Yolen and Alan Kushner, and a lot of them actually have little shout-outs to each other in their books. And I remember reading it when I was younger and thinking that it made it seem like a much bigger world, because it seemed like all of this stuff must have really happened if they could know people are not even in the same book. And so that was, you know, the reason why I started putting little references to other works in my works.
Yeah, I think Alec and Magnus and Corny would get along. I think we would have adventures and we'd have each other over for dinner. I think it'd be great. I don't know what she's about. This would be great. This would be great. It would be a great story. So thank you for the suggestion. I mean, you know, anything's possible.
When should we expect your next book? Because it's like the first, I haven't read the first one yet, but it sounds like really intriguing and like a storyline that I could really get into.
It's really beautifully written.
Where are you? Okay, you already have like
Right behind it.
I actually have a little sneaky peek of the second book here. It will be out, I think it says February. It was originally March, so now it's earlier than that. But the good news is you want to read the first book, so you can just stretch it out for a really long time. Make it last.
Okay, I saw a question, but it's in a really weird location. No, really. There's behind that stack over there. I see you. I actually do see you. All the way back there. Someone's going to have to help me, though. All right.
Let's go.
Good luck.
I have a question.
censor himself.
Question I cannot wait to hear how you're going to answer. All right, here you go.
Lauren suggested Alec, but I said he's already been in the closet so long.
She did not.
I think I would take Jace, and I would take Will, and I would probably take Jessamine, and I would lock them in a closet because I feel that it would be like putting a bunch of angry cats in a bag. And it would be like we all just wait outside the closet, and whoever came out alive, it would be like the Thunderdome. You wouldn't
This question is for Cassie. Is there anything else you can tell us about the casting on City of Bones?
That's a good question.
Nothing really that exciting. They sort of would have, they might have auditioned like 160 people for Jace. There's a lot of auditioning, but they've sort of whittled down to like their top 5 picks. All of them I like, so I think it's a question of now having all of those people test with Lily. Because once they pick the person people who they like, they have to see if they have chemistry with Clare, and then go from there. So I'm literally just waiting for news, just like everybody else. So I mean, I'm optimistic because I like most of the choices. So fingers crossed.
Are you planning, Cassie, to make a cameo in the movie?
I proceed with cautious optimism on all things movie related. I feel that, with movies they can do anything at any time, including cancel the whole project. So, assuming they never make a movie and they offer me the opportunity to do a cameo, I would consider like being in the very background, maybe of this crowd scene or something like that, or like being someone dead. But I definitely don't want a speaking part. And then anybody really care that much about like church and Chairman Meow, but after City of Fallen Angels, like one of the big questions I got was like, where was Chairman Meow? Who was feeding him? I was like, honestly, go on vacation and just be like, later's Chairman Meow. I'm sure you'll be okay. Return to the feral state that I found you in. So I assume that he had somebody, like cat sitting Chairman Meow. But Church is an unusual cat. He's a magical cat. The necromantic spells that the Dark Sisters put on him in Clockwork Angel have caused him to be immortal, a little bit smarter than your average cat, and a little bit more disinclined to like people. He spends most of Clockwork Prince biting Will. He came from the London Institute to the New York Institute when someone moved from London to New York and took their cat with them. I mean, he is a cat, and he goes where he's taken. So let us just say that Church has lived for a very long time, would be likely to outlived, all the people with normal lifespans in Clockwork Angel, and one of them, or their descendants, moved to New York and took the cat with them. So we'll find out a little bit more about that in the end of Clockwork Princess.